Thank you all so much for tuning in to another Hey Nonprofits live webinar presented by HGA Fundraising. HGA Fundraising provides the most profitable auction items in fundraising. And I want to take a quick second. I'm coloring outside the lines just a little bit, y'all. We are a trip provider, trips and experiences. Folks call them consignment items in our space. And recently, we've been dealing with a lot of donor, travel inquiries and changes and what have you because of the civil unrest in Mexico. So I wanted to do a special shout out to our amazing hospitality team. If they're on the call right now, thank you so much, ladies. Deb is our director of hospitality and everyone on the team, including my sister as well. But thank you all so much for the work that you all are doing and taking care of our donors. We take our donor fulfillment piece exceptionally seriously. And because we are procuring and booking our trips with donors exclusively, it includes a lot of work when things like this happen in the world. So we're game for it. We take it very, very seriously. But yeah, thanks so much. But hey, okay. I'll quit rambling. Jordan Campbell, friend of ours out of Atlanta, Georgia. Jordan, do us a favor. Introduce yourself to the audience, please, if you don't mind, brother.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you all. My name's Jordan Campbell. I'm a fundraising auctioneer based in Atlanta, but covered all the states. I've been in the States for around 6 years. Originally from Scotland and auctioneered all around the world. And absolutely love being here in the States. Some amazing causes I work for. You can find me at jordan-campbell.net. Reach out here on the LinkedIn, add me, and hopefully we can give you some pearls of wisdom today. I hope. Fingers crossed.
Heck yeah, we are. That's awesome. Chris, do the same if you don't mind, my brother.
Yeah, of course. So Chris Hensley, I've been a fundraising auctioneer for about 10 years now, based primarily in Chicago, but I travel all over the country to do it. It has never once felt like work. I absolutely love to be on stage and, do the strategy in advance and, help people take their events to new highs, new records. I book about 80 a year and just love every minute of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And if anyone is watching this as a recording, you'll be able to see ways that you can reach out to Chris and Jordan very, very easily. And as mentioned, folks that are on the call, reach out to the guys and connect with them on LinkedIn, and we'll get the ball rolling. So, Chris, I'll ask you first. I mean, like I said, Sandy put together this beautiful 6-part series, Time to Perfection. This is part 1. It's the first time we've ever done it. It's because every time we talk about event success, auctions, anything, it used to be, well, how do I get my board to help me fundraise? Now it's, hey, when do I start my auction? How long is too long? How long should my run of show be? How long should I do what should we wait for fundraising till the very end, till after the band plays, this, that, and the other thing. So timing is such a crucial piece of the event. And I know you both spend so much time pre-event working with the organizations you have the good opportunity to work with. Chris, I'll let you start. Why is it so imperative that we nail this timing piece night of? Given that we're in 2026, obviously a busy season. I know it's a 30,000-foot view question, but just your take on that right now.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, it's important to nail it night of because you only have donor interest for so long. You're introducing your organization to a lot of people for the first time. People don't come to galas to be talked at and sold to. They come for social connection. They come for a party. So I think it's important to have a party on the front, party at the back, and do some business in the middle, right? And that business in the middle needs to be done in like 60 to 75 minutes, and it needs to be done by probably 8:45, 9 o'clock at the latest on a weeknight, and 9 or 9:15 at the latest on a weekend. And so, however you do, there's so many different approaches, and there's no wrong approach, but I do think there are some approaches that are more successful at raising money than others.
I want to get into pitfalls as well for folks to avoid, but Jordan, following up on that question and also condensing it because it hasn't always been this way, even the last handful of years, right? As far as timeline and how we're condensing it, I should say, right? Jordan, your take on that and why it's just so important these days.
Yeah, just following on from what Chris says, Trevor, unfortunately, we live in a world where modern attention spans have minimized to an absolute tiny little window. Exactly. And people need to be stimulated every 5 to 7 minutes. We're almost like goldfish at this stage. So the aim is, but ultimately people that go to these galas, in many cases, they've gotten the babysitter, they've taken the time out. They might not have had a night out for a long time. So they're there to be engaged. They're there to have a performance. They're there to really feel part of the community and to donate. And if you go on too long, then sometimes that monotony leads to a little bit of tension in the room, or people might zone out a little bit. And most people really do know, they've earmarked in their heads prior to the gala what they might spend. And obviously, if we do our jobs and if everything's set up well for our jobs in the event with a powerful roller coaster of a run of show, then they usually go well beyond what they had originally earmarked in their heads. So the idea is to keep their attention quickly, especially in that emotional appeal section, I believe, prior to the fund a need or the paddle raise. That should, for me, never be more than 3 minutes long, 5 minutes at the absolute max, because within the first minute, you already have them. Everyone in the room knows I'm going to donate 20,000 or 1,000 or 500 or whatever it might be. And so you want to really engage that and harness that emotion at the right time. And having too long a run of show really ultimately penalizes that.
And with length, or avoiding the lengthy messaging or what have you with the timeline, I mean, what's something, and it could be recency because of y'all are right in the middle of season right now for both of you, because due to recency or just anything that's top of mind, what is one major pitfall that folks that find themselves falling into that costs them thousands? Is it going too long with the speaking? Is it going too long with that video? Chris, just a common mistake, something to avoid.
I think the most common mistake is not focusing on audience development in advance of the event. I mean, this is
beautiful.
A 4 to 6 month job. I always say it's not the 18 minutes that I'm on stage, it's the 18 weeks that led up to the event that were the cause for success or not.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to that, table host kind of idea where, you've got, if you have 400 people at your event, you have 40 ambassadors, the table host, right? And it's imperative that you engage them in that audience development work, because if they bring the marketing interns, you're not going to raise any money from that table. That's a dead spot, right? But if they bring the C-suite, then you're going to raise a ton of money. And so, and then, convincing them, as many of those 40 as you can, to talk to their guests about, hey, this is a fundraiser. It's important to me. I'm going to raise my paddle at X, if they're willing to say that, and I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll do something personally significant as well.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Jordan, anything follow up? Yeah.
Absolutely spot on. I can't say it better myself. It's a case of having the right bums in the right seats. Don't be too corporate heavy, because big corporate boss will send some of his team who really don't want to be there to be at home. They prefer to be at home or spending their weekend with their families, but they feel ought to be there. So if you have too many of those tables, then ultimately I think that will damage you. And as Chris said, if the interns are coming, but with the hosts, absolutely. Because there is a weird under the surface social contract. If you're bringing your friends or bringing people with the express understanding that it's going to be fundraising. Right. So if you get the right people that can influence things, that is a really, really big thing.
Yeah, I always talk about these unspoken peer pressure moments that you can create in your event, or you can set them up in advance, months, weeks, whatever, but you can create them in the moment that night as well. Like, using your auction vendor management platform to put the names of the donors up on the screen, because if you've got 400 people in the room, somebody on the left side of the room might be raising their paddle and somebody on the right side might be influenced by them, but they can't see who it is that's raising their paddle. And so, like, put the name of the donor on the paddle, put the name of the donor on the screen, right? So give all of these opportunities for Jordan and I to say, me and Jordan and me to say, Trevor Nelson at $2,500. Thank you so much for your generosity. And then Trevor's name pops up on the screen as well, right? And that's all possible with the technology that every nonprofit is invested in. Not everybody uses it, but you're creating these peer pressure moments, that these unspoken moments that people are like, oh, Trevor just raised his paddle at $2,500. I should raise mine at $2,500 as well.
Yeah. And absolutely, just to follow on from that, those unspoken moments, those peer pressure moments, to try and make your events across the board more of a sensory experience. Obviously hear, see, et cetera, but how can you showcase generosity? And Trevor, I think we talked about this last time. One of the things I like to do is, prior to the fund a need, it's such a simple thing and a cheap thing to do, is I say something along the lines of, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to do the fund a need, but before we start, I'd like to turn the house lights off. And as I say off, hopefully the room will go dark. And then I say in that darkness, I say, looking around, ladies and gentlemen, the room is shrouded in darkness. Moving forward, every time you donate, one of our volunteers is going to scurry across to your table and give you a little white light. And at the end of the fund a need, we're going to turn these lights back off, and hopefully, the room will be filled with stars.
Love that.
And that way, it's a visual showcase of generosity, but it's also a peer pressure thing. If you don't have a little light, well, you stand out.
Yeah.
So it's a subtle little cue like that.
I love
and then
it.
Chris is absolutely right to have all those things considered from the outset, all those little psychological cues. And I'm sure Chris and I could go on to the cows come home about the psychology of auctions.
Absolutely. I want to put a bookmark on the technology piece, because I want to circle back to that and using the software that you mentioned, Chris, and how that can really help us condense the timeline and be really, really efficient. Definitely want to talk about that as far as like check-in registration, and we have to talk about it. It's so important night of, and we're getting some questions, and so I want to push and nudge folks to keep asking questions as well. Please, Francesca, we'll get to that question in just a second. But Chris, you were just talking about engaging folks and talking about working with them 18 weeks in advance and table hosts. And Jordan, I know you talk about the same, getting the right people in the room. Is this timing piece such an important piece now? And I'm going to frame this in a way like I'm going to an event for like the third time, because you mentioned new people and we want to get the right people, right? So if I'm like a lifelong supporter, or I've been going to an event for, this is my third year in a row, and I'm a table host or an ambassador and I'm bringing folks with me, I'm going to probably, if they've never been, I'm probably going to say something like, hey guys, we're going to be in and out in 90 minutes. You know what I mean? It's from this time to this time. It's going to be a fundraiser, and making it very, very clear, because the organization gave me that script, that copy, so to speak, right? And I'm using the term script loosely, but are we seeing timing become such an important piece where we're starting that? It's like, this is how long the fundraising is going to be. It's not going to be a party until after. We're going to fundraise from this time to this time, like to the point where we're really, really setting the table that deep, Chris. And then Jordan, I want to hear from you as well, please, about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll even, as I get up on stage, especially for the fund a need, I'll frequently say, I need the room for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Cool.
I might even say 8 minutes, because 8 feels like, I can give you 8 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I'll pause, right? And that pause is gold, because the audience is like, what's happening? There were just a bunch of noise from the stage, and now there's silence, and I better be quiet and listen in. I had this couple the other night that was they were so obnoxious, and I literally just took the microphone with me and I walked over and I stood by them. Right. It was like I was a teacher for a second grade classroom or something. Right. And they finally got the point, like, hey, we're trying to do something here. We're trying to raise money. But I mean, I think if you can tell people that, like you said, they play an important role here for the next 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 25, whatever it is. And then you can get back to the party. The bar is going to open back up. The band's going to start, the DJ, whatever. Then people will give you the time and attention that's necessary to raise money.
Love it. Jordan?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sometimes it can be, we have various crowds from 700s, tipsy parents, shall I put it that way, to certain schools, right through to the more solemn crowds, because it's obviously for a very, very powerful cause. And so we see it all, but done right, if you've already, as the auctioneer, and set the table, not just the auctioneer, the MC it might be, or it might be the executive director, whoever might have spoken before, if you set the table right, so to speak, then you can gain their attention to a certain degree. I like a crowd that there is a murmur in, because that shows that you can harness that energy a little bit and hopefully redirect it if done right. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there are times, as Chris says, where you're close to saying shut up, but you can't say that. Of course.
But it's a fine balance. Like at the start of my live auction, And I prefer live auction than mission moment than paddle raise, right? Everybody has their own preference, right? But, in the live auction for me is like, if you can't move an item in 3 minutes, don't move it at all. It used to be different, used to have more time, but now it's 3 minutes, 30-second description. Written mostly on ChatGPT and then just cleaned up by me, right? And so 30-second description, 2.5 minutes of sales, and if it's going nuts and that goes to 4 minutes, great, I'll make up the time on a different item. And then 3 to 5 minutes, as Jordan said, of mission. If that's a video or if it's a speaker on stage. If it's a speaker on stage, you have to work with that speaker to package what they're going to say, help them tell their story in a way that your audience is going to be moved by it. And listen to them tell it. Don't be afraid to help tighten their story. And then let them get up there and work their magic kind of thing. And then I come back and, but at the start of that live auction, I give them these 4 rules, and these aren't unique to me. I've picked these up from other auctioneers. Rule number 1 is make sure you have your own paddle. Rule number 2 is we're not here for deals. So dig deep, give generously. Rule number 3 is cheer when somebody else is raising their paddle. To what Jordan's talking about. Do you like that audience to have some liveliness to that? Yeah. You don't want them to just be sitting on their hands kind of thing. Like, have a good time, because when you cheer, when you hoot and holler, when you stand up and wave your towel around kind of thing, that fires up those donors to go in more deeply, right? If somebody's stopped at 9,500 and I'm trying to get them to go to 10.5 because they just got outbid at 10, like the audience cheering them on, their table cheering them on, that is what gets people to do things irrationally. And that's what makes, magic sometimes for live auctions.
Yeah.
Adds energy and emotion.
Sorry, Trevor. Yeah, a lot of that stems from the perfect run of show. I see a couple of questions about the run of show. And as Chris said, it's all about, from my point of view, as succinct as possible, but make it into an emotional roller coaster. I completely agree. Have the live auction first. Ideally, as close to when they've just finished their entrees as possible. Yeah. That's when people are at their happiest. They've just eaten. They might be on their second or third drink. That's what I call the second or third drink sweet spot, if it is one of those occasions. Yeah. And then you, as the auctioneer, I don't understand those who do the fund a need first, because I think the live auction is a perfect vehicle for the auctioneer to become liked by the audience. Yeah. And trusted by the audience, because if the auctioneer comes up first and it's the fund a need, and hi, I'm Jordan Campbell, you haven't met me yet, but here, $5,000, please donate. It doesn't resonate as much as, oh, that guy did a live auction, we had a lot of fun, let's give him our attention already again. Yeah. So I think it's really important. And as you take them to the top of the live auction roller coaster of emotion, you take that energy and convert it into that emotional energy, that powerful energy for the fund and need, and keep that succinct, because people know they're donating. They know they're donating the second the speaker comes up.
You talk about that roller coaster. I was just going to tee you up on that again, and you went right back there.
Exactly.
Again.
And then you end
exactly what it is.
You end at the end of the fund and need with the game at a run around, last hero standing, and done right. You take them back up the excitement. So when they leave, they're saying, we have to come back next year. We love this cause.
And they go out and they evangelize to others like, wow, that event was incredible. There's this event in Chicago. I've never done it as an auctioneer, but it's called the Goombay Bash, I think. And it just has this reputation as being this rip-roaring good time. That's what you want your event to have, is that reputation.
You want folks to come back.
And here's a surefire. You talked earlier, Trevor, about pitfalls. I wanted to come back to this.
Okay. Pitfalls. We got some questions. We got some questions as well for you all too.
Yeah, pitfalls. When you honor somebody, don't let them speak. When you honor somebody, don't do the photo of them holding some plaque from the stage. You're asking 400 people to sit there in silence, awkward silence, and watch you take a photo. Take the photo before or after the event. It's not like a surprise that the honoree is getting honored. Give them the plaque beforehand. Take a picture. Take the plaque back from them. If you need to hand it out to them, give it to them. But don't give them the microphone. Nobody there wants to hear, somebody talk about their relationship to the organization. That might sound controversial, but it's sucking up time in your event.
That's like 3 to 5 minutes right there. The golden hour of fundraising is getting chewed into. Yeah, totally. We got some great questions real quick. I want to get, or not real quick, pardon me. I want you all to take as much time as you need. Great questions, everybody. Thank you so much. Hey, Chris and Jordan, double clicking on this. When Chris is saying the work happens 18 weeks before the event, what sort of work are you suggesting?
Yeah, there's a blog post that I have on it. Jordan, I'm sure, has a great answer on this as well. But we're fundraising strategists first and foremost, right? We're not just carnival barkers that get up there and call out numbers. Although that's fun and there's some spectacle to it. I love that part of it. But if we plan those 18 weeks leading up to the event, the moment that we're on stage is going to come off seamlessly. And what planning looks like is developing your run of show, is developing your audience, making sure that as soon as somebody commits to a table, that they know there's an obligation for them to build their table into a productive table, right? This is a fundraiser. And so you want to make sure that they bring their friends who can spend money and that they're having conversations with those people. In the 3 to 4 weeks leading up to the event, start leaking out like what your live auction packages are. Start giving people the foresight that there's going to be a paddle raise, right? So that nobody should walk into your event and be shocked that they're handed a paddle or that there's a paddle with their name on it waiting for them at their table. They should know that their paddle is their power that night. And that's the way that they can influence this mission, right? So that's just a tiny bit of the work that needs to go in. But there's a blog post on my website, bidraisebid.com, that you can go and read that blog post about what to do in advance.
Cool. Jordan?
Yeah, absolutely. Similar timescale to me, usually just over T minus 3 months, event day minus 3 months or so, 4 months in this case. What I normally do is we have a first steps call with the client and set our stall out. We talk about the essence of the night. If you're a guest, what kind of feelings you want to leave the night with, what you want to see, how do you want to be engaged, how many guests are returning from previous years, what's the demographic. Go through all these things so we actually have an essence to start with. And then we go through and we share a PowerPoint. Usually PowerPoints are very, very boring, I understand, but this one's quite fun. It's basically imagining yourself as a guest. What touch point do you have throughout the night from the second you arrive, how are you greeted, right through to the checkout? Because I've talked to Trevor about this before, but when you arrive on the night, you have to tap into the sales principle of reciprocity in that give them something immediately, whether it's a mimosa or whether it's a handshake or whether it's a hi. It could be anything. And then people give back tenfold later on.
Love it.
From the get-go, they're made to feel special.
So having this little chat over here on the side also about do you promote your live auction items? Absolutely. Do you want as many people
no surprises
to your event? Yeah, if you've got this awesome trip to the Amalfi Coast kind of thing, Trevor, you've helped me with one of those before. You want 7 or 8 people coming into that event thinking that that's their trip. When they get outbid, they're going to be like, somebody just stole my trip, and I'm going to say that to them also, right? They just stole your trip to the Amalfi Coast. You better go deeper, right? But if they thought, I'm going to go up to 7,000 on this, and then they get caught up in the moment, they go to 8, and then that next guy goes to 9, and then they come back at 10, and then we double it, right? And you've just made double or triple the money for the organization. So you want as many people coming in there thinking that package to wherever, or that experience of whatever is mine. And people will also pool the resources. If it's a trip for 4, if it's a trip for 8, if it's a private dinner in your home for 10, they're already thinking about who they're going to bring with them. And those people, sometimes they're sitting there together right there, table of 10, dinner for 10 in your home, right? They start saying, well, I'll throw in 2 and I'll throw in 2 and I'll throw in 2. And all of a sudden you're at $20,000 for a private dinner because a table came together in the moment. But they did that because they knew about it in advance.
How do you feel about that, Jordan, as far as advertising these items so they're not a surprise pre-event? That was a question from Accent.
Especially for those items, there are certain items where you can consider them their sort of in the moment purchases, right? You get swept up in the moment, but the majority, as Chris says, people ponder them beforehand. The logistics of it, if it's a sports game, am I going to be available that day anyway? That you have to give them time to start to marinate on how much they're going to bid, how much they want it as well, so it can grow by the time they get to the event.
Francesca, thanks so much for the question. I see you in there. And Kim, Sarah, thanks for just love y'all being you. Thank you so much. We had a question. Well, my answer to this question from Kim, any other suggestions on grabbing the full attention of the audience? This is where I see most people struggle. Well, having a great fundraising auctioneer, a world-class fundraising auctioneer would be step 1 for sure. But I want to get y'all's take on this. Chris, a great way, regarding Kim's question. I'm scrolling back to the top so we don't miss any questions. Grabbing the full attention of the audience.
Yeah. So, AV.
Okay, cool. Right. Talk about it. Yeah. AV. Test it beforehand, obviously.
I mean, that's a foregone, but, spend the money on AV, right? If they can't hear me, if I can't get their attention, forget it, right? You're going to raise $5, $10, $20, $30,000 less because they can't hear me. And so the way to grab people's attention is, the events that do it the best, grab the audience's attention by a video that comes on and is super loud, and super well produced. And I know all of that costs money, but all of the money you spend is going to result in money that you raise that night, right? AV is the number one thing.
Love it. The importance of investing in sound AV, Jordan. Anything to double click on them with that, please?
Well, no, absolutely, because that sets the professionalism for the night as well, right?
Yeah.
Because if from the get-go, everything's going smoothly, it feels like there's a lot of gravitas to the event, little things can derail. So yeah, in terms of gaining their energy from an auctioneer perspective, it's all about immediately becoming affable on stage, immediately becoming interactive and engaging. And so I think those are the best auctioneers, those are the best people that speak, are the ones to really, to really feel as if they're not Mr. and Mrs. Outside Hire.
Yeah.
I think that's really important as an auctioneer, to really study the cause, understand the emotions behind it, understand the drive behind it, because that comes across very clearly to an audience.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're,
So key.
Good. Hey, Kim had a follow-up question. Kim, thanks so much. Can someone please provide a good template for a run of show with area for script? I struggle with AV at times, not following along well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Does she want it actually emailed to her? Happy to do that.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, let's have you both. Let's have Kim reach out to both of y'all so you guys can, and we'll provide you with contact information for Jordan and Chris, of course, as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best ones, just to answer a little bit of the question now, are
thank you.
They're almost always produced in Excel, or some kind of spreadsheet, and they have a column that is specifically for the AV team, and it's usually in a different color that's exclusive to the AV team. And then typically somebody from the organization that really knows the importance of the run of show sticking to the run of show is sitting right next to that AV person that's advancing the slides, that's turning on the microphones, that type of thing. One of the killers for events, this is such a little thing, but I'll go back and talk to the AV team in advance and I'll say, I want control of my microphone the entire time. Typically it's a Shure SM58 and it has an on-off switch or a press on-off, right? And so I want my volume up to full speed 100% of the time, because when somebody else finishes, I don't want that 15 seconds of dead time of them getting off the stage and me getting back on the stage. So, if Trevor Nelson's the speaker, I'll very quickly, after Trevor says, thank you very much, and the audience is still cheering to keep the energy going, I'll say, Trevor Nelson, ladies and gentlemen, continue to show some love for Trevor here tonight as I'm coming onto the stage. But if you didn't script that with the AV team in advance, they're back there fuddling with your volume switch, my volume switch, and I'm talking to a microphone that's dead, right? And so there's all these little nuances, and this is exactly why you hire a professional auctioneer, because we've done it hundreds of times, right? And so we know every one of those little pitfalls to worry about and think about and to work around.
Love it.
But yeah, so whoever asked the question, literally, I would find a seat between the guy that's doing the video slides, the video and the slides, and a seat between the woman who's controlling the audio, so that you can be the controller. You can be like, next slide, turn that mic on, next slide, run the video, all that kind of thing. And even the people that do it best are like, there's 30 seconds left in the video, right? And so I know exactly when, I pop back up after the video, that kind of thing.
Love it. Jordan?
So yeah, all stems from, as Chris says as well, having a run of show that's clear, succinct, powerful, and engaging. too often we see too many speakers up on stage. Too often we see too much airtime. When guests really want to mingle, they want to talk to other guests, and that will make them even more powerful in their generosity when it comes to the emotional appeal, the fundraising, the fund a need, and the live auction. Yeah. It's all about engaging them, because that's what they're there for. The better a time they have, and it sounds so obvious, but the better the time they have, the more generous they become.
I literally just took a picture on my phone of Janelle's comment over here about the countdown clock.
Oh yeah, I love it.
About that, because people talk about that all the time. It is an absolute bang on winner.
Okay, cool.
Time, right?
Let me, and for the audience, let me preface that real quick. So, Janelle, it's so good to see you. Thank you so much. Janelle said we've been having great success with a 10 or 15-minute countdown clock on the entire big screens, reinforced by random reminders. Our program will begin in just 7 minutes and 42 seconds. Please take your seats at this time. I want you both to talk about that. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, Chris, you agree. Continue. Sorry for interrupting. I just want to give the audience some context. And thanks so much. It's good to see you, Janelle.
Well, I love that specificity of the 7 minutes, 42 seconds. I mean, I haven't used that yet, but I'm going to use it now. Janelle, thank you. It's that's really cool, because it's just such a little thing. It makes people think in short moments.
Yeah.
So I really do like that. But absolutely, we've done the countdown clock as well. Obviously, you've got the bells, the gongs, the cattle prodders moving the subtly moving the guests through to the ballroom.
Lights flashing on and off.
Yeah, exactly. Lights switching on and off. You can try everything. Ultimately, if it's a slight delay, it also means the guests are having a good time already. Yeah. So if you're going to spin it in a positive light, if guests are lingering too much, that could be deemed a positive thing. But absolutely, if you can try and herd them through as quickly as possible, that's great.
Cool. Hey, I wanted to follow up real quick. We're going all over the place, but in a great way. And Kim, thank you so much. So we were talking about engaging table hosts and what have you. I want you both to, we'll put our thinking caps on here and help Kim. So she has a professional auctioneer. She was talking about keeping people's attention. She's required to use the AVs at the Hilton where she's having her event. She just needs more help. ED, staff of one, LOL, of course. And we get it. We totally understand. So if that's the case and she needs more help, how would you engage folks that care for her mission to get involved? If you've seen this happen before, which I'm assuming you both have.
Chris, you want to go first?
Either way, yeah. I mean, volunteers, board members, you would be the first place I would go to, right?
Okay.
Your board members know your mission as well as you or better. They've been around longer than most staff.
Don't say bored, she says. I'm joking out loud. Yeah. Sorry, Chris.
But volunteers as well. I mean, you could have a well trained volunteer sitting with the AV team. Cool. The AV team, if you're required to use an AV team and they're not meeting your needs, you can let the venue know that, if this doesn't change in the future, we'll choose a different venue. Right.
Sure.
And they'll give you flexibility pretty quickly. I mean, look, if the in-house AV isn't pulling their weight, that's their job. They have one job, right? Mm-hmm. They got to do better.
Yeah, I agree with that. And for Kim, you can't just fire them, go ahead and fire them, because you still got to do the event. But as Chris said, if they're not doing their job, ultimately, if they're falling short, then it might have to be a change next year, or at least warn them of that change.
Yep. Imani, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming. Appreciate you so much. Awesome. I find that engaging volunteers, board members as bid spotters or key assistants in other areas of the event is a good way of getting them involved. Awesome. Love that. And then, of course, Kim, this conversation can happen off air with the fellows as well anytime, and they're here for you. We had a question that was submitted pre-webinar from Lori. Our annual gala is November, and it draws 700 to 800 people. 120 gave to a match challenge that night. The board does not want to bring in an auctioneer. What are other ways to baby step them into incremental revenue this year? That's a great question, Lori. If you're here, thank you so much. That's awesome. Jordan, go ahead with that if you don't mind.
Well, obviously, I'm going to be impartial on my answer
please be.
Here. Please be. Chris. But ultimately, we've heard this story a million times. We don't want an auctioneer. We don't want to spend on an auctioneer because my neighbor Bobby is a really good stand-up comedian. So there is that disconnect with those who haven't used an auctioneer before versus those who have used a professional auctioneer. Mm-hmm. You see the revenues rise immediately, but not just the revenues, it's the performance on stage. It's knowing the psychology of which order to put the live auction items in, for example, where to do the starting bids, what increments to go up in. If it's consignment, knowing when to sell it multiple times, knowing when to sell it fewer times based on quick maths in your head for net profit. So on the consignment thing, you can sell consignment things 1 million times if you want, but knowing that, is your audience one that is willing to go up on this and have one final winning bidder at $10,000 for this particular item? Or do I stop the bidding now at $3,000 and get 40 people to put up their paddles? So the net profit is even better than selling it once. So there's all these little things you got to consider that an auctioneer brings to the table. The psychology of it, the fund need, the emotional appeal, has to segue out of the emotional speaker or the video that you might have into the fund need in a seamless way. So it's all in harmony and people in the room are naturally captivated by the cause. Obviously I'm going to big up auctioneers. That's my prerogative, but we've seen from a revenue statistics point of view, anytime you have a good professional auctioneer, it changes the game of what you bring in on the night.
So Jordan, you talked about that crescendo earlier, and what you've just described, that roller coaster, what you've just described are roller coasters within roller coasters, right? You got to have all of these little crescendo, like every single live auction package has its own crescendo, right? Has its own roller coaster ride, right? Somebody's in, somebody's out, somebody comes back in a little bit later, that kind of thing. But yeah, for the organization, I mean, they may feel great, right? Like, hey, we saved, $5,000 on not hiring an auctioneer. What they're missing though is that they left $300,000 in the room probably, right? I mean, I'm really leaning in on data now to tell clients what they should expect, right? And by the end of this year, I'm going to have a great database of events and averages and what you should get with this size audience and that type, this night in particular. And I mean, I'm even tracing down to like what I wear. And was there any correlation to my gold jacket versus my pink jacket kind of thing?
Right.
I don't think there will be, but but I did an event a couple weeks ago. Like I had an event on a Friday night and a Saturday night. They were both Catholic schools, both in Chicago. And one they had roughly the same quantity of people. One raised $350,000 and one raised $130,000, right? And so what is it that one audience did that the other one didn't? Development, program, quality of live auction items, teeing people up in advance for the paddle raise, and they did the work in advance and it paid great dividends. And so you can be penny wise and pound foolish, right? By saving that $5,000. I mean, I even had a client the other day that wanted to negotiate my price down by $500, right? And I finally just said, look, I gave you a discount in the past. I'm offering you a discount already, in comparison to what I charge for most of my clients on these nights. And if you want, you can go hire a different auctioneer, but I'm gonna raise you $10 or $20 or $30,000 more than that other auctioneer. And so and they signed the contract to send it back this morning. So you got to spend money to make money. Right.
Sure.
Jordan and I have done this 500 times. There's a reason why we've done it 500 times. We're good at it. Right. We help you raise more money. We help find money that's in the room that other people wouldn't find. Right.
We're so pro auctioneer and the work that you all do, and folks in the audience as well. We're grateful for you all, so much so. And I'm going to have Sandy put it up there. We have a new resource, a new tool, Charity Auctioneers, that we love. A new website where you can see auctioneers, locate them, talk to them, have conversations, have these conversations. One thing I've noticed with everyone that we've partnered with is the willingness to share, and that's a prerequisite for even partnering with us, and vice versa. giving your best information away for free, consulting. We're all pushing folks in the same direction. And that's our, that's the goal, is for you to, Sandy has put the website up, is for you to be able to contact and find folks that you can create a relationship with. And even if it's not this year, it's next year, let's continue having the conversation. It's so necessary. It's leaving so much money on the table. It's baffling how much. So, another great question. And hi, Diana, thanks so much for coming. Appreciate you. Imani, thank you so much for more feedback. Came at a follow-up question. As an auctioneer, how do you connect with the mission night of to draw in the donors? It's a 30,000-foot view question, but a great one. Jordan?
Yeah, well, I think the key is to do your homework first and foremost. Obviously, I find when I go to the causes mothership, for lack of a better term, whether it's a hospital, whether it's an office building, whether it's a school, and getting a tour, you really get to connect with the core of the cause.
Smart.
For example, we had Children's Healthcare of Atlanta recently, and I did a tour around the Aflac Blood Disorder Center, which is obviously going to be very emotional. But that allowed me to tap into the depth of it, the depth of the issue and the depth of the need and the depth of the mission. And hopefully you can convey that authentically on stage if you've done your homework and so on, and really give that authenticity and be very straightforward on stage and engage the audience. And that's the best way, I think, to connect the mission to the donors. But also during the cocktail hour, the reception is where I mingle with the audience. Chris says obviously he changes his outfit based on the color schemes and the audience, etc. I change my kilt based on that. I've got about 10 different kilts now because each color scheme is different, or tuxedos or whatever it might be. So the key is really during that cocktail hour reception to mingle with the audience, to get them to know you, but also to find the big hitters in the room, subtly seed or inception wise, seed which live auction items they should or are already interested in. And so all these little touches to really ingratiate yourself with the audience, because they have to like you to bid on the live auction. It sounds very trite, but you have to have an auctioneer that they somewhat like, or at least somewhat trust, in order to give their money.
I ran a hospital foundation prior to doing this, and I did it both, for a while. And we hired a consultant at one point, and like a week into the gig, the consultant, I felt, knew more than I did about our cardiology program.
Wow.
And I was like, how did you learn all of that? And she's like, I read your website.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's no secret sauce to it, right?
Yeah, love that.
Like I love going out and doing the tours in advance. I immediately, Jordan, when you were talking about that, I thought about the Omaha Zoo I did last September, and I went out the day before, a couple days before, in fact, and met with key leaders, met with donors, toured, met the giraffes, saw elephants up close. It was incredible.
Yeah.
So that when you get up there, that combined with working the cocktail hour. You've got, you know the organization as well as anybody in the audience, and you know some of the people in the audience, so that you're able to say, my friend that came across the river from Council Bluffs, thank you so much for your gift at $5,000. Right. Yeah. And when you do that 3 or 4 or 5 times, then the audience is like, this guy knows us. Right. And the thing, and I saw Diana and Imani on here, and I appreciate the love, but I love working with you guys. But I want the audience to come up to me afterwards and say, and they do sometimes, how long have you worked for the organization? I don't.
Gotcha.
I'm a consultant, right? But I care about my clients to the point where I'm going to know the organization, because that authenticity is what absolutely helps you raise more money.
Yep. I love that. I love what you both said. I think that's awesome. People give to people they like. I know y'all are in there, you obviously work in 18 months, 4 months, whatever it might, or excuse me, 18 weeks, 4 months, whatever it might be, leading up to the event, but getting boots on the ground and creating a visceral connection. I mean, obviously, we can talk all we want about technology and all these different things, but it sounds there's a pattern here about being more connected with the folks in the room, making sure they're connected, obviously, with what you're doing. And there's real clear cut human visceral ways that we can go about doing this. There's a renaissance that's happening, of course, where the events aren't going anywhere, more popping up all the time. And we're living through a really, really cool time where this connectivity piece is going to play out very, very well. And it's important. It's important to engage with folks like yourselves and folks that I know are joining us as well that do the work as consultants and as fundraising auctioneers to make sure that you're not, once again, leaving money on the table, making the most out of the event of the evening, and making sure that folks have a great time and come back. Yeah.
So, Trevor, there's a question from Dan in here about what's the best, our opinions on the best way to deploy a $100,000 matching gift.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
And so I'm sure we both have different answers. I think it's different for every organization, but what you have to do is you have to dig in on the data, right? If you've got 10, if you come out with your $100,000 match at the top and you have 10 people that give $10,000, the match is gone before it influences people who are typically influenced by matches, right? And so look at your data. If you had $60,000 donors at your event last year, can we use that $100,000 match entirely at the $1,000 level to try to move that 60 to 100, right? Yeah. Find that spot where it's like it can make the most impact, right? Yeah. If your event, if your paddle raise raised 100,000 last year and you have a $100,000 match this year, announce it from the very beginning, right? And every gift is matched. But if you're trying to raise more money, utilize that match in a strategic way that's going to get people, the $500 donors to give 1,000, the thousands to give 2,500, but then start having those conversations in advance so that people come in thinking, I'm going to give 2,500, and then maybe we motivate them in a way that they give 5,000, or 1,000 gives 2,500, or 500 gives 1,000 in the moment. You want people thinking about it in advance of the event. So that so that you have this guarantee that you're gonna make magic happen with your match,
and use the leverage.
The more that you can phrase it as a true match. If we raise 100,000, we get 100,000. If we raise 78, we get 78. So let's get the full 100. True match.
Love it, Jordan.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. There's a certain psychology to it as well. And I think a lot really depends on the baseline of what at each level, what tangibly does each level achieve. So I always say to clients, at a $10,000 level, you've got to have something tangible and graspable. You can't just say $10,000 goes to some research, something vague. It's got to be something tangible for two reasons. One, when you go home that night, you feel very fulfilled because you know exactly where your money went. Yeah. And secondly, you might have to explain to your husband and wife where that money went. So it's really key to know that. But from a matching point of view, I completely agree with Chris. Sometimes it's good to have the match lower down, but look at your historical data of where people give first and foremost. Sometimes I invite clients to think about, okay, well, maybe there's nothing at $10,000 you can exactly tangibly get from that. But if you have a project that's 80,000, you need to build a new building, and it's 80,000, that's when you can start to pilot people together. So ladies and gentlemen, if I can get 8 of you at $10,000 tonight, aside from the match, 8 of you at $10,000 tonight, that 80,000 would go towards X, Y, and Z. You find that once you get to 5 people, getting 6, 7, and 8 people are a lot easier
100%.
Because humans want to close the loop. There's that psychological peer pressure that's like the undercurrent of the room. And when it comes to the match, completely agreed with what Chris said. You can put it lower down, but all depends on your historical data of where people are giving in each level.
Love it. Love it. Awesome. And great question, Dan. Dan, I know who you are. It's awesome, man. Thanks so much. I appreciate you. If you're here right now, thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Let's see here. We had a couple rapid fire questions. One y'all are already answered. I love asking what comes first, live auction first or fun and neat paddle raise. We had a question about the right amount of auction items. I know that's broad because of the size of the room and timeline. Chris says 8, rapid fire. Jordan, what's a good 6? Okay, cool. Even numbers. All right.
It depends on the size of the room.
I'm going to say 7 because it's a prime number and it's right in between you guys. Okay. All right. So cool. Yeah. We had a guest on last week. Keith McLean came on last week, and he said that auctions apply, if they're done correctly, apply the right amount of pressure. And I hear that as a theme as well. And I'm using pressure as a very, very, it's a loose term, but I'm using it as a very, very direct term as well, and a very glass half full term. Because you guys were just talking about that pressure with the match and with the timing, the live auctions and the crescendo and opening bids and all of these things. And I just want to, maybe even like in closing, just like why it's so important that we recognize that pressure is good, because pressure creates diamonds. And then how, in closing, once again, Chris, you go first about the timing of it and making sure that we're really, really aware that we have a finite amount of time. Why we save the party for last. Why we get the fundraising out of the way first. Things of that nature. Just in closing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many directions I could take that.
Totally, I know. Sorry, brother. Yeah.
No. That's great. That unspoken peer pressure is gold, right? It's gold. And audience cheering is unspoken peer pressure, right?
Yeah.
The rapid, the cadence at which Jordan and I are calling out the bids is unspoken peer pressure. I mean, you're creating all of these things. The support of the mission is pressure, right? I mean, all of this is coming together in that moment. But the key thing is that you're getting people to give to your organization through this vehicle, right? You've got other levers you can pull. You've got your annual fund. You've got your planned gift program. You've got your major gifts. You've got, the monthly giving program, all that kind of thing. But events are one of the best ways to get people to give and to learn about your mission at the same time. And so use that event for that purpose. But then by all means, after the event, engage those donors, right? That post-event stewardship of your donors is what's going to keep people. I tell this story all the time. There was this guy that came to an event at Northwestern Medicine in 1994. He gave $250. Last week, or maybe 2 weeks ago, he just gave his most recent $50 million gift. He's given $132 million since that first event gift in 1994. And his name's on the side of the heart hospital, right? It's like, that's what events can do. They're powerful.
Love it. Jordan, take us home, brother.
Well, no, absolutely. It's all about, I think, that building that sense of community in the moment, because we live in this modern world. Everyone's on their phones. So the gold dust is even more pronounced when you come to galas now, because there's fewer occasions where people are all hanging out together.
Yep.
So it's really tapping into that sense of community. A good auctioneer should be able to do that, make everyone in the room feel included. And whether that's having a lineup of live auction items that taps into the Goldilocks effect of everyone in the room having a porridge that's good for them, right through to enjoying the sensory experience of the night. And I think it's absolutely key, as Chris said, to engage everyone, to follow up with your donors, because you never know where the big people are in the room. I've told you quickly, Trevor, that story in the past when I was auctioning in China for this Yao Ming's charity in the Marriott. And there was a guy in flip-flops, shorts and T-shirts in the cocktail hour. I thought he'd just come from the gym in the hotel. And he got chatting to me, and it turned out he had just flown in. He hadn't had time to get changed. And he was the one that during the fund of need, out of the back of the room when I was asking for $10,000, screamed $1 million.
Wow.
Or the equivalent in Chinese money.
Yeah.
And in shorts, T-shirts, and flip-flops.
Yeah.
And so you just never know. So if you can touch everyone in that room on some level on the night, then that's gold.
I love it. This was gold. So thank you both so much.
There we go.
Pardon me. My voice is failing. I'm all talked out this week. Too many podcasts and too many webinars, but I'm happy to do it, y'all. But hey, everybody, thanks so much. There's no need to register for next week. I'm losing it. Dan Lyles and Mark Schuster are coming next week for part 2 of Time to Perfection. No need to register if you already have. And I want to announce the winner. I'm sorry for keeping you all so late. Christy Salinas of UNCF Houston. You've won the $1,000 in HGA bucks and a free coaching session. Thank you so much. Sandy's put her information right there. Thanks so much, Christy. Appreciate you so much for coming. Appreciate you all. It's great to see some new folks and friends of Hey Nonprofits as well that have been here before. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate you all for coming. Can't thank you both enough. Jordan, Chris, means the world. You know how much we feel about you guys. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time. Reach out to these fellas, connect with them on LinkedIn, send them an email, keep the conversation going, everybody, and we will see you all next Thursday. Appreciate you.
Okay.